Back. Yes, we are. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. That is Bill Colarulo hanging out with us today. I am Rob Ellis, and we are joined now. He has a phenomenal piece on Bleeding Green Nation, and you can catch a lot of his work all over the place. That's our guy, Joe Santoliquito. Joe, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing well. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir. We got you. Hear us?
So, yeah, I do. Yeah, you're going to have to put up my beautiful, ugly mug real close.
We're getting more of Joe's face than you could ever.
Oh, my God. That's more of a face than I want to keep in shadow.
Yes. Oh, my gosh. All right. So, Joe.
Well, there we go. Okay. I'm going to have some fun. All right.
You're good. This could be interesting. Put your seatbelt on, Bill. Here we go. All right, Joe. So, a lot to discuss out of this. Obviously, first of all, phenomenal piece. Okay. Let me just tell you that. And the craziest thing is, it came out 5 years to the day of your Carson Wentz piece when everybody lost their mind, thought you were crazy, and then it turned out to be kind of prophetic.
Well, they're not the only ones that think I'm crazy.
Yeah. So let's start with this. When it comes to Jalen, how critical, how important was the fact that he was a lot less accessible this year? How real is that part in terms of how things went for him this season, how he's perceived by his teammates? How big is that to the whole, underlying story here?
To this season, how it applies to this season, I think was pretty big. Again, the thing that kept on coming back to me, and actually what prompted me to turn around and delve into this, was that I kept on hearing things. And again, Rob, you and I had spoken about this, but for this audience here, there were 5, 6, 7, 8 different people. I mean, people that don't even know each other just said, dude's changed. I mean, he's a guarded guy to begin with. You know how an NFL quarterback, they are set off from their other teammates in a lot of ways. But this is a guarded guy to begin with. And I understand his walls came up even higher when obviously the contract's made. And I understand it. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I understand it because suddenly Jalen Hurts was placed in a new world. Suddenly he's in that world of, and we all know that world. I mean, everybody has their hand out. Everybody's looking for something. And he's in a situation. He's not a trusting guy, a naturally trusting guy. I see that and understand that. And I think sometimes, again, that defensive mechanism, those walls came up even higher. So that goes into the season. That begins the season. I think his training schedule was set off. I think that was a big part of it. And then you're dealing with, then compounding that, you're dealing with a new OC, a new DC. And this was a mess to begin with. And Hurts was, again, his guardedness was part of it. I think, and again, you and I have discussed this, Rob. I think all this is very correctable. All of this is something there that I give Jalen Hurts credit for emotional intelligence. I don't know if the other guy he inherited the position from had that, but I firmly believe this guy has it, and I think very strongly that he could change.
And one of the things in the story was about him being a better leader, and that at times he defers to A.J. Brown when it comes to leadership. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, it's almost like the two of them together. Now, I have not been with the two of them together. I've been with the two of them separately, but not the two of them together. Out of the two of them, being together with them separately, A.J. Brown has a more dominating personality. I've been in social settings with both of them. I've been in intimate settings with both of them. Jalen is a guy that will go in, and he's the type that'll go into the corner of the room, look at the layout, and then slowly weight himself to the center of the room. A.J. Brown will just burst right in. So A.J. Brown has that type of personality. He has, out of the two of them, he's the alpha male, I would say. And then I think we also saw that blatantly on the sidelines. And I'll tell you this, the two of them, I mean, I don't know. Do you guys have brothers?
I don't.
Only child over here.
Yeah, same.
Okay. Well, I have a brother. God bless him. Love him to death. Jimmy's going to get all mushy over this, but I mean, some of the most vehement, nasty ass arguments, and obviously these came when we were children, came with my brother. And if you think about it, with relatives, with friends, your nastiest, strongest arguments, most contentious discussions are oftentimes with family and friends.
Yeah,
so when those guys blow up, that's that. I don't take any more into that. That's family to me. That's family blowing up at each other. They're allowed to blow up at each other the way they are. But what has gotten back to me over and over again, well, through 1, 2, 3, 4 different layers, is that Jalen will defer to AJ Brown. AJ Brown is, I know for a fact he's respected in that locker room. I got to spend quite a bit of time with the guy. He's a really, really, really good dude, which I will share, and I have no problem sharing, and I'm sure AJ Brown wouldn't mind sharing this. Just in small talk with him, and we were talking, and I was teasing him a little bit about some things that I won't go into detail about here. But he whips, he reaches into his pocket, takes out his phone, and says, "Dude, this is the most important thing to me." And he shows me a picture of his family. He says, "Right after that, it's winning men. I want to win." And I'll go as far as saying that, but he's a good guy. He's an incredibly accountable guy. And I'm not saying Jalen Hurts isn't accountable. Jalen Hurts is accountable. He could be more accountable. I'm also not saying Jalen Brown is not a leader, as I worded it in the story. He could be, guys. We all read it. I wrote it. He could be a better leader. He should be a better leader, and I actually think he will be a better leader.
All right, two questions, Joe, off of that. What is his relationship currently with Nick Sirianni, and what was it like with Brian Johnson? I know we all assumed that everything was hunky dory because he's known him since he was a kid in Houston, and Brian Johnson played for his dad, et cetera, et cetera. But we have heard things that maybe that soured as well. Do you know where that stands? Not that it matters because Johnson's out the door, but yeah.
Presently, I don't. But what I can express is, again, what I saw. And I was with both Jalen and Nick. And they get along with one another. They get along with one another very well. I mean, when Hurts, again, I think far more was blown up out of this than it should have been. When Jalen turns around and goes, "I didn't even know that was a deal." If you guys all remember that, which I think, went viral. I didn't even know it was a deal that Nick was up. I think that says more about Jalen than his relationship with Nick Sirianni. Jalen could be that guy on an island. He is often that guy on an island. When I was with them, he got along very, very well with Nick Sirianni. And the thing, too, that impressed me is, again, when I was with him in the setting I was in, he walks into the room. There might have been around 23 or 24 people in there, a couple of which were Jalen's parents. Jalen shook everybody's hand in that room. And again, that might be a small thing to turn around and look at, but I think that says something about the quality and the character of the guy. I never said he didn't have any character. I never said there was any, there was not any qualities to him, leadership qualities to him. What the story said, according to from people telling me, these things are in him. It's up to him to bring those relationships to the surface. I don't know. From what I understand, his relationship with Brian Johnson was very, very strong. And I also go as far as saying this: I don't think it soured. I think there was some issues, obviously, on the field. He had that. He had Linus's blanket. Linus's blanket was that 2-year relationship with Shane Steichen. And again, the history of Jalen Hurts is he flourished with consistency. And again, in fairness to Jalen Hurts, he hasn't had a whole lot of consistency. A lot of what happened this past season, he has a little bit on Jalen. He could read defenses a little bit better. He was a collaborative part of that game plan. It was part of his doing, maybe, that why they didn't go down the middle of the field. But the other part of it is that he didn't get much help. He didn't get much help by his coaching staff to piece things together. I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think he soured on Brian Johnson. And that goes with, I feel very strongly Jalen Hurts is kind of a loyal dude. Now, I could speculate on whether or not he lost faith in his play calling. I have the impression, from what I do know, that he did. Because he and him and his favorite receiver sometimes will look at each other, nod. They go rogue a little bit.
Yep.
So I think there's some validation behind that, whether or not he did lose faith in the play calling of Brian Johnson. But Jalen Hurts, the Jalen Hurts that I know, is a pretty loyal dude.
And Rob mentioned it earlier. You wrote the story about Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz turned out to be one of the most shocking declines we've ever seen in the NFL, especially in Philadelphia. And every fan right now has this fear that Jalen Hurts is going to be the next Carson Wentz. But you made it clear in your article, this is not a Carson Wentz situation.
And
make us feel good, Joe.
Yeah. And I'll make you feel good. I mean, that was reiterated to me over and over again. I can't get into the specifics of the story. Rob knows this behind the curtains. There was a situation on the West Coast during the Super Bowl year. And someone says, someone retold the story. Young man comes up asking the previous quarterback for an autograph. Previous quarterback basically blew the kid off. The individual told me that it wouldn't be Jalen. He would get up, he'd talk to the kid, he'd sign the kid's autograph. And he might blow the rest of us off. He might not say anything.
Take care of the kid, but anybody else on the team.
He would take care of the kid, which I think speaks volumes of Jalen Hurts. I think he came in to a whole lot of money. He's 25 years old. He came into a whole new world of bright lights, big city Hollywood. This is a dude, and this is from someone very, 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 very close to Jalen Hurts, who told me Jalen would rather be working out, throwing in Texas heat, and not doing commercials and not building his brand. I'm not blaming his representation. They had to do what they had to do to help him out and make some, make him have him make some money. I understand that. I see that. But I also know that, and again, even in the story, there was no doubt about his work ethic. There was no doubt about who he is, what he's about. And I have no doubt whatsoever. And I'll stake my reputation on it. Jalen Hurts is going to make a comeback. Jalen Hurts is going to have a better 2024 year. Now, I don't know if he's going to be able to duplicate 2022, but I will say this: Jalen Hurts will have a better 24, because I think he's going to go into that far more prepared. Now, guys, again, let's also this comes with a little bit of an asterisk, and the asterisk being if Jalen Hurts does not have to have some type of minor season surgery to clean out that left knee, which again, don't be surprised if it does come out, because the guy did play hurt. He did not play up to all of his physical capabilities, I believe, this past season. And I think eventually there were times that it caught up to him. I mean, we would see times, guys, and we all saw them, where he would just curl up and just hit the ground and not do anything. And that's not him. It's not part of his game. His legs are a major part of his game. I'm talking to numerous NFL people that know the game far better than me. They just, over and over said, Jalen is not a natural thrower. Jalen himself knows this. I mean, that's why he's going to turn around, put that added time in. That's why 2 years ago, when he put that time in, Rob and I, we discussed this, whether it was a Tom House, right? 2 years ago.
Tom House in
California. Think about this. Yeah, and think about this. He comes into that season, dude, his mechanics were right on, his technique. I mean, the ball was far better in 2022, the Super Bowl season, than it was this year. And again, like I said, I think it all leans into preparation. The guy's very much about routine. He's very much about preparation. This can be fixed. And I feel knowing, and I'll throw my chips in the center of the table and say that Jalen Hurts will fix these things. This is a guy that will get up. This is a guy that's accountable. Now, granted, again, because we deal with idiots in this world on Twitter, this thing was accused of a hit piece. But you guys read it. Be fair with me, both these. And I know, Rob, I know, Bill, no disrespect, man, but I know Rob like a brother. Be honest with me. Did you guys think it was a hit piece? I mean, it was a piece on their season demise, but I thought it was very fair to Jalen Hurts.
I'll speak first, Bill. I didn't, honestly, Joe, I didn't think it was a hit piece. I thought you supported it statistically. I know, you utilized some of the things Tim McManus put out there about him not using the middle of the field. Like, I think there's no opinion there. That's fact. He didn't throw well enough in the middle of the field. I thought you also pointed out, frankly, that he didn't get great coaching this year. And that played a big part of it. I'll tell you, Joe, I think it was very down the middle. I'd be real with you. We would have talked and I would have told you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I didn't think it was a hit piece, Bill.
No, and when I read it, it was after I was seeing all the tweets referring to it as a hit piece. So I went into it thinking I was about to read a hit piece, and it wasn't. And in fact, I think you went really far to make sure it wasn't, by making not excuses, quote unquote, but saying, look, this is why he was a little bit more guarded. He did come into a lot of money. We know what it's like having people coming after us. And I thought it was really important that you made it clear this is not a Carson Wentz situation.
Yeah.
That his players and his teammates don't look at him the same way they look at the other guy. So, no, it was not a hit piece, Joe.
I thought also, Joe, if I could interject real quick,
Mhm.
I thought you did a really good job with it on a lot of levels. But I also thought when you made it a point to say, look, the issues are nowhere near as stark as they were with Wentz.
Yeah.
This is not the same thing. You know, it's a natural to do. We always want to do comparisons, but you did point that out, I thought, very clearly throughout.
Yeah. Bill, both of you, thank you very much, both of you, for that. Bill, I thought you made a really, really good point, because the thing in gathering this, and Rob knows where a lot of bones are buried from 5 years ago. I'll stop there.
Yeah, that was heat there. But I also know how.
But there was balance there with that. I mean, you know, where I'm looking for some nuggets, I'm looking for something in reference to Wentz, and that's, Rob, that was 8, 9 guys deep,
right?
And you're over here groping and you're looking. You know, with Hurts, I didn't have to look too far for someone to say, "Hey, listen, he's not the other guy. He will get up from this." You know, I think the biggest thing that I would stress, and hopefully people came away with the story thinking, he needs to communicate better. He needs to lower those boundaries, get that stuff together, and communicate better.
Yeah, you use the word salvageable, and that, I think that's a very fair word, because if you think about it, if he's willing to just, hey, let's all go out to dinner, or little stupid stuff like that seems stupid, it's not. Team bonding kind of stuff is important.
Yeah. And the other thing too that's important.
Go ahead.
Is, and again, we discussed this last night, and how trivial this is, and I spoke to a couple of people even this morning about this, is rhythm. He was never, think about this, guys, he was never, did you ever get a feel that he was in any kind of rhythm? And I saw this stat in terms of tempo and how quickly the Eagles got in and out of plays. And again, how minor this may be, I think it was very, very scant, but I think it was like 0.3 or 0.4 seconds longer than they got into their plays, in and out of their plays last year offensively. And again, 0.3 or 4 seconds, that could be a mountain of time in the NFL. We know how valuable every split second is. They never really seem to get into any kind of rhythm. And the other thing too is, how twisted this may sound, is this team as an organization aren't really doing themselves any favors. Now we will be going into what? This will be their third OC and third DC in 3 years, correct?
Yes.
Well, they had Shane Steichen for back-to-back.
Yeah.
Not good. So you had Shane Steichen, and then you had, so you had Steichen 2 years ago, you had Brian Johnson, and then they're going to have a new OC. Yeah, so this is going to be three OCs in 3 years for Jalen Hurts. If they think they're going to help in the development of their franchise quarterback, that's not the way to do it.
Well, any way you slice this, when you have to fire both of your coordinators, there were massive mistakes made before this season. There's no other way to put it. And
I got the impression, a very strong impression, it wasn't Nick hiring the OC and the DC. Well, in-house, they thought it was a natural move to elevate Brian Johnson. We saw how that worked out. It wasn't great. I thought it was okay. The guy that got the bum deal, and you guys may cringe about this, I thought it was Desai. Mm-hmm. I thought there were moments where Desai was really, really good. I mean, look at the defense he put out against Miami. Look at the defense he put out against Kansas City. I thought he got a raw deal. I thought they could have at least given him at least another year and bolstered that side of the defense up. Because, again, I go back to, and this is in-house, by the way. This is in-house. We had guys in position to make plays. They didn't make the freaking plays. You know, you look at the situation that keeps on coming up over and over again. The Morrow hit against Debo Sweeney in the Debo Samuel in the San Francisco game, where our player was in position, and this is from someone inside. He was in position to make the play. We had our guy there to make the play. He bounced off him like a tennis ball. And you see the depleted state of the secondary. Cunningham, as it was told to me by 2 NFL personnel people, Cunningham and Morrow, they would be their NFL caliber players, on your special teams for an elite team. Blankenship, I think, is a decent, serviceable safety. Kevin Byard was, let's be realistic with each other, guys. He was not who people expected him to be. I would go as far as saying he was a bust. From what people expected him to be as to who he turned out to be was completely awful. Rick's had to learn during the season. We can go down. Avonte Maddox forced himself, because it's just the courage and the character of Avonte, to come back far sooner than he probably could have and should have. We started to see Avonte in the latter part when he was playing show parts of who Avonte Maddox could be. They certainly have someone there who's a quality defensive back in Maddox. Bradbury, it's a shame, for as much as I like James personally. He's shot. I think Slade maybe has another year, but they're going to have to. Their philosophical attitude is going to have to change.
Yeah.
I mean, Rob, you and I were kids when they drafted Jerry Robinson in the first round,
1979.
And I talk to this young man on a regular basis. You know, my guy Jeremiah Trotter Jr., baby. I hope they get him. I hope he's there on the board. He's not kind of hoping he's there on the board. He's hoping he's taken before that. But I would love to see that, and I think it's a great fit. There's obviously tradition here. You know, walking in the Axeman, Daddy Axeman shoes. But I think having another 54, and obviously a quality young man who I go way back with, would be a big nice step.
I agree. Look, the city would lose its mind if they got it in a good way. In a good way, the city would lose its mind. You see a lot of 54 jerseys would be right back out in
his Clemson orange and in midnight green again.
Correct.
That would be awesome. Joe, I agree with you 100% on Sean Desai. I've been saying it for a while that Howie Roseman's the reason this defense was in the state it was in. They severely lacked personnel. There's no doubt about it. But one more thing I want to talk to you about from your article about Jalen. You talked about how the difference between him and Wentz is when Jalen gets knocked down, he's going to get himself up. He's not going to blame anybody else. But then you cite to the Bobby Okereke play against the New York Giants, where they come out for the brotherly shove. Okereke jumps over the line before the snap and hits Hurts in the head. And I remember at the time being furious that not a single player on the Eagles offense got in Okereke's face. And you used that to say, well, it's kind of because these players know he's going to get himself up. But did that surprise you that no one came to his defense when Okereke did that?
It did. It did. And the other thing that was a surprise was, think about this, guys. 5 years ago, Rob, and you were there at Ground Zero, Rob.
Yep.
When I did the Wentz piece, now this is interesting. I think the Eagles had them do this, but when I did the Wentz piece, there were guys that came out on social media to defend Wentz. No one's come out. I mean, like I said, you guys read it. It was fair, but the perception was, well, one, it's me, because suddenly now I'm the hitman. I'm the hitman. Suddenly I'm Joe, Tommy Hurts, Santoliquito. Like Bob Roots. I'm the hitman. But the fact is, no one on social media came out to defend Hurts with my so-called hit piece. We all know it wasn't a hit piece if you read it. It wasn't. It was actually, I'll tell you what, it was a hit piece. It was a hit piece on the 2023 Eagles. And I think there's a long line behind me and in front of me in terms of a hit piece on the 2023 Eagles. But in terms of anything in reference to Hurts in that story, I found it interesting. No Eagle on social media went out to say, hey, this isn't true. That's not accurate. None of it. True. Well, none of it, because quite a bit of it came from inside. So I also think I found that a very interesting dynamic to that story.
Yeah, look, and we saw it, man. Let me ask you, Joe, last one, and appreciate your time. Hurts struggles on the field. Forget the lack of accessibility and all that. You put it more on him for whatever reason, or more on the coaching staff that he took a bit of a step back this year?
I'm going to put him on the coaching staff.
Okay.
I'm going to put him on the coaching staff. He is an old school dude who loves to be coached hard. I know for a stone cold fact, he blamed himself for that Super Bowl loss. And that is a guy that's accountable. It bothered him. I know that for a fact. And I know that, again, from not only just him, just nodding his head, dude. And this is a month and a half, 2 months later. I said, it still stung? It still stings? He goes, yeah. And that's all he did. He says, yeah, it still stinks.
Gotcha.
I know that hurts. Excuse me, the pun. I knew that hurts. This guy, like I said, I'm pushing all in terms of him learning from this year, him growing from this year. And the biggest thing, and again, Rob, you and I spoke about this prior, is communication. He needs to build, and he's certainly capable of doing it. And I feel very strongly that he will do it. He needs to be a better communicator, and he's very, very capable of doing that. Again, he's kind of a guy, like I said, he's got to lay the land. That's just who he is. And things should not be plunged into that. But I also know him kind of being that, projecting that kind of personality where people don't get to know him.
Right.
Put it this way. He's the girl in the room that's got to be the pretty girl in the room that's got to be in the corner. You got to approach her. She's not going to approach you. Jalen is that type. Jalen, you got to approach Jalen. You got to pull things out of Jalen. Jalen's not going to come to you. And I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just who he is. Again, the guy that waits in the, is going to, he's going to show up to the party, hang out on the wall, sit in the corner, and then slowly and gradually weight himself into the middle of the room. And for him to be who he wants to be, he's going to have to learn how to do that. And I think that's a very, very valid, constructive criticism. And I think he has the emotional maturity to do that. The emotional intelligence. There we go. I like
that. You had to get that. Yeah, you got to use the Jeffrey Lurie terms.
Come emotional intelligence to do that.
That's right, Joe. Listen, great job, man. Great job. Again, Bleeding Green Nation. You can check it out. Joe's piece, very thorough.
And can I apologize for something?
Yes.
Can I apologize to your audience, because I look like Jabba the Hutt here, man.
You're a handsome fella, Joe.
You're the Jabba the Hutt.
It's hard. It's hard to get that right camera angle, man. That's all I can tell you. It's very difficult. Guys like Bill have a whole makeup team and everything else, man. It's not easy.
Yeah, we're used to this.
Yes. Joe, great job, guys. Man. Appreciate you.
Okay, guys. Thank you, guys.
Talk to you soon.
Okay.
Thanks, Joe.
All right. Take care. That is Joe Santoliquito. But yeah, it is. If you haven't had an opportunity, just check it out. It's definitely not what you would call a hit piece. I think he tries to explain, and we're all looking for answers as to what happened this season. And a lot of it's either going to start with the head coach or the quarterback. That's just the way things go in the NFL. And I think he gives you a pretty thorough understanding of it takes you behind the curtain to understand what's going on there, with Jalen.
I'm happy I read it because, like I said, I did see all the people kind of calling it a hit piece. And when you read it, it's not. And it's really not an indictment of Jalen Hurts. He talks about, and he said it just now, he's confident he's going to bounce back. And everybody's fear is this is the next Carson Wentz. He makes clear in that article that people do not think this is another Carson Wentz situation, that his teammates don't look at him the same way, which I think is a really important thing for fans to know.
You know what I think his teammates, how they view it? They're like, we're a little bummed at the way it went this year. We know he's capable. We hope he'll be willing to sort of be one of the guys a little bit more, be more inclusive, and be a little bit more. Nobody needs him to be rah screaming, in the middle of just be a little bit more of what you have to be as a quarterback.
But you know what's crazy, Rob? It's last year when they're winning, we talked about how great of a leader he is, and he leads by example, and we love that he's quiet, and look at him on the sidelines. Nothing phases him. And now they're losing, and it's, how come he's not reacting on the sidelines? How come he's not more vocal? So I do think, and I reached out to people too, we talked about it yesterday, who said, he does need to be a more vocal leader. We do want that from him. But the common theme that I keep hearing, and Joe said the same thing, is he's a great kid. He's a great guy. People do like him, but he just needs to grow into being a more vocal leader, and I think he'll get there. I'm a big fan of Jalen Hurts, and I see people saying it in the chat that I don't say negative things about him. I just think that Jalen Hurts is going to be a really good quarterback in this league for a very long time, and I don't think we should judge what happened this season and just throw everything else out the window after you just saw him in the biggest game of his life, Super Bowl 57, put up a stat line that no one else has ever done in the history of the NFL. You can't forget about that.
Well, there's different forms of maturity. there's maturity where you got to buckle down and start doing the work and stop being a knucklehead off the field. None of that stuff applies to Jalen Hurts. He's the most mature 25-year-old in that sense that you'll ever see in your life. Far more mature than I was, and still am. But there's other forms of maturity too, where it's like, hey, you know, every once in a while you gotta make sure you're devoting time to this person, or reaching out, or doing this and that. And some of that just comes with growth. And I think I truly believe he's a reflective person. And not only will he look back and understand that this component of it, but he's also got to work on things in his game. I mean, let's face it, his mechanics weren't good enough. He was forcing too many deep shots. He was turning the ball over too much. You got to get to the root of why all of those things were happening. Now, I know part of that is getting the right offensive coordinator in here, and Nick doing a better job too. But I do believe, like, he's already been in the lab, whether that's breaking down film or just thinking things through when everything slows down a little bit, whatever. I'm sure, and it doesn't mean it's a guarantee he's going to be an MVP, but I'm sure he's working on these things for sure.
I agree with you.
Yeah. All right, let's come back. Let's continue with the Eagles discussion. We'll look at some of the bigger issues, offensive side, defensive side, you know, what they can do here to address some of these things with the coaching staff that they choose. And, you know, ahead of tomorrow's meeting with the media. It's going to be very interesting. All right, don't go anywhere. That's Bill Colarulo. I'm Rob Ellis. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Let's talk about Jim Murray and Principal Financial Group, because knowing who to trust with your finances is critical. And I'm right there in the front of the line, because it took me a long time to find the right people. And I found them with Jim Murray and Principal Financial Group, whether it's retirement planning, 401k review, insurance review. You might have a small business and you're trying to get help with your employee benefits. That's another resource that Jim can help you with. He's also there for any questions that you have. If you're not sure about something, hey, what about this? Can I write this off? Or how about this? Maybe if we do this, I see this stock is doing well. Whatever the case may be, he's there for you. I've entrusted my IRA, my 401k rollovers with Jim, and I couldn't be any happier. Give him a call, 610-996-4751, 610-996-4751. You can also email him as well, Murray, MURRAY.Jim@principal.com. That's Murray.Jim@principal.com.